Hey there, you looking kinda cute. Don't forget to subscribe and check out my other socials for more. Enjoy. Roy shifted uncomfortably in the hard wooden pew, tugging at his collar as the pastor's words washed over him. The familiar feelings of guilt and shame churned in his stomach as he tried to focus on the sermon. But his mind kept drifting to the hidden box tucked away in the back of his closet at home, the one filled with silky fabrics, shimmering sequins, and dreams he couldn't quite shake.
"And so we must resist temptation in all its forms," the pastor's voice boomed. "For the path of righteousness is narrow, but the rewards are great." Roy nodded along with the rest of the congregation, but inside he was a maelstrom of conflicting emotions. He believed in God, truly he did. His faith had been a cornerstone of his life for as long as he could remember. And yet... The service ended, and Roy made his way out of the church, exchanging polite nods and murmured greetings with his fellow parishioners. He climbed into his sensible sedan and sat for a moment, hands gripping the steering wheel as he took a deep breath. "Just go straight home," he muttered to himself. "Don't do this again."
But even as the words left his lips, he knew it was futile. The urge, the need had been building all week. It clawed at him, demanding to be satisfied. With a resigned sigh, Roy started the car and pulled out of the parking lot. Instead of turning left toward his tidy suburban home, he found himself drawn right toward the strip mall on the edge of town. His palms grew sweaty as he parked in front of the discount clothing store.
"Just a quick look," he told himself. "Window shopping, that's all."
The bell above the door chimed as he entered. Roy kept his head down, avoiding eye contact with the bored cashier as he made his way to the women's section. His fingers trailed over racks of blouses and dresses, lingering on a powder blue sweater with delicate pearl buttons. "Can I help you find anything?" Roy jumped at the saleswoman's cheerful voice. "Oh, no, just browsing. For my wife." The lie tasted bitter on his tongue. There was no wife, had never been one. Just Roy and his secrets and shame. "Well, let me know if you need any help." The saleswoman bustled off to assist another customer. Roy's heart was racing. He should leave. He knew he should leave. But his traitorous hands reached out, plucking the blue sweater from the rack. A skirt soon followed, knee-length in a soft gray material that would swish when he walked. Before he quite knew what was happening, he found himself at the register, fumbling for his wallet as the cashier rang up his purchases. The drive home was a blur. Roy's mind raced, excitement and guilt warring within him. He hurried inside, locking the door behind him before racing to his bedroom. The new clothes joined the secret stash in his closet. Roy's hands shook as he reached for the box, lifting the lid reverently. Sheer stockings, a padded bra, makeup bought furtively at the drugstore, and now the sweater and skirt, a complete outfit. Roy's breath quickened as he ran his fingers over the soft fabrics. "What are you doing?" a voice in his head demanded. It sounded suspiciously like his father.
"This is sick, perverted. You need to pray for forgiveness." "It's just clothes," another part of him argued. "God looks at the heart, not the outward appearance. He knows who I really am inside." Roy squeezed his eyes shut, torn between desire and disgust. "Please," he whispered, "please forgive me. I don't want to feel this way." But even as the prayer left his lips, his hands were reaching for the clothes. He stripped quickly, efficiently, trying not to look at his decidedly masculine form in the mirror. The stockings went on first, whisper soft against his legs. Then the bra, carefully stuffed. Roy's movements grew more confident as he donned the skirt and sweater. He'd done this enough times to have a routine down. Seated at his dresser, he carefully applied foundation, blush, and mascara. A swipe of pink lipstick completed the transformation. Finally, Roy allowed himself to look in the full-length mirror. The person staring back at him was almost right. Almost her. If he squinted, he could almost see the woman he felt like inside. But the broad shoulders and stubbly jaw betrayed the illusion. "You look ridiculous," the critical voice in his head sneered. "A man playing dress-up. Pathetic." "I feel right,"
the other part insisted. This is who I am. Roy sank onto the bed, burying his face in his hands. Why? He whispered. Why did you make me this way? I've tried so hard to be good, to be the man you want me to be. But it never goes away. This feeling, this need. Please, if you're listening, help me understand. Silence was his only answer. Roy's shoulders slumped in defeat. He knew he should change, put everything away, and pretend this moment of weakness had never happened, but he couldn't bring himself to do it just yet. Instead, he stood and twirled experimentally, watching the skirt flare out around his legs. A small smile tugged at his lips despite himself. It felt nice, natural even. He took a few steps, reveling in the unfamiliar sensations, the sway of the skirt, the gentle constriction of the bra, the click of low heels on hardwood. For just a moment, Roy allowed himself to imagine a different life. One where he could walk down the street dressed like this without fear or shame. Where he could go to church and be accepted for who he truly was inside. Where he didn't have to hide such a fundamental part of himself from the world. The fantasy was bittersweet. Roy knew it could never be reality. He was a man, born and raised. This thing inside him, this desire to be something else, it had to be wrong, sinful. And yet, you made me this way, he murmured, eyes turned heavenward. If it's so wrong, why does it feel so right? As if in answer, a sudden wave of dizziness washed over him. Roy stumbled, catching himself on the edge of the dresser. The room seemed to tilt and spin around him. He squeezed his eyes shut, willing the vertigo to pass. When he opened them again, he gasped in shock. The person staring back at him from the mirror was different, softer, more delicate features, fuller lips, longer lashes, and curves, real curves. Roy's hands flew to his chest, confirming what his eyes were telling him. This wasn't padding or illusion. This was real. How? He whispered, voice higher and sweeter than he was used to. Am I dreaming? He pinched himself, hard enough to leave a mark on suddenly soft skin, but the image in the mirror didn't waver or change. Roy, or was it still Roy, sank to the floor, overwhelmed. This couldn't be happening. It wasn't possible. And yet, a hysterical giggle bubbled up in his throat. A prayer answered? Divine intervention? Or had he finally cracked under the weight of his own self-loathing? Whatever the explanation, Roy couldn't deny the rush of relief and joy that flooded through him. For the first time in his life, his outer appearance matched how he felt inside. The discord, the wrongness that had plagued him for so long, it was gone. Tears sprang to his eyes as he whispered a prayer of thanks. I don't understand, he said softly. But thank you. Thank you for seeing me, for hearing me. Roy climbed unsteadily to his feet, marveling at how different his body felt. Lighter, more graceful. He took a few experimental steps, no longer play-acting at femininity, but embodying it completely. 1,000 questions raced through his mind. How would he explain this to people? What would his family say? The church? How would this change his life? But for now, in this moment, none of that mattered. For the first time in his life, Roy felt truly, completely at peace with himself. Whatever challenges lay ahead, he would face them as his authentic self. With a smile, he twirled again, laughing with pure joy as the skirt billowed around him. No longer a man in women's clothing, but simply herself, whole and complete at last. As the initial shock wore off, Roy, or perhaps she needed a new name now, began to explore her transformed body with a mix of wonder and trepidation. Her reflection in the mirror was still startling. The face looking back at her was undeniably feminine, with high cheekbones and full lips. Her hair, once short and neatly trimmed, now fell in soft waves past her shoulders. Even her eyes seemed different, larger, more expressive. This is impossible, she murmured, voice still unfamiliar to her ears. And yet, she pinched herself again, harder this time. But the image in the mirror remained unchanged. This was real. Somehow, some way, her deepest, most secret wish had been granted. As the initial euphoria began to fade, anxiety crept in. What would this mean for her life, her job, her friends, her place in the community? Everything would change. How could she possibly explain this transformation to anyone? One step at a time, she told herself firmly. Deal with the immediate concerns first. The most pressing issue was her identity. Legally, she was still Roy, a man. But that clearly no longer matched her physical reality. She would need new identification, a new name, a whole new life. Rachel, she said experimentally, trying the name on for size. Rachel Marie Thompson. It felt right, like slipping on a comfortable sweater. Rachel smiled at her reflection, feeling a surge of confidence. Whatever challenges lay ahead, she would face them as her true self. The next few hours were a whirlwind of activity. Rachel went through her closet, sorting clothes into keep and donate piles. The men's suits and button-downs that had always felt like a costume would go to charity. Her secret stash of women's clothing, once hidden away in shame, now took pride of place in her wardrobe. She made a list of everything she would need to do. Update her driver's license, inform her employer, schedule doctor's appointments to understand what had happened to her body. The task seemed overwhelming, but Rachel felt a sense of purpose she had never known before. As evening fell, Rachel found herself sitting on the edge of her bed, staring at her phone. She knew she couldn't hide away forever. Sooner or later, she would have to face the world, and that meant telling people what had happened. With trembling fingers, she dialed a familiar number. Her sister had always been her closest confidant, the one person Roy had come close to confiding in about his inner turmoil. If anyone would understand, it would be her. The phone rang once, twice, 3 times. Rachel's heart pounded in her chest. What if Sarah didn't believe her? What if she was disgusted, horrified? Hello. Sarah's voice came through the speaker, warm and familiar. Rachel took a deep breath. Sarah, it's me, Roy. Something's happened. Can you come over? I need to talk to you. There was a pause on the other end of the line. Roy, you sound different. Are you okay? I'm fine, Rachel assured her. Better than fine, actually. But it's complicated. Please, can you just come over? I promise I'll explain everything. Another pause, then. Okay, I'll be there in 20 minutes. You're sure you're all right? I promise. Thank you, Sarah. I love you. Rachel ended the call and let out a shaky breath. This was it. The first step towards living openly as her true self. She smoothed down her skirt and touched up her lipstick, wanting to look her best when Sarah arrived. The wait seemed interminable. Rachel paced her living room, rehearsing what she would say in her head. How do you even begin to explain something like this? Finally, the doorbell rang. Rachel's heart leapt into her throat. This was it. No turning back now. She opened the door to find Sarah standing there, concern etched on her face. Roy, what's going? Sarah's words died on her lips as she took in the sight before her. Her eyes widened in shock, darting from Rachel's face to her distinctly feminine body and back again. I can explain, Rachel began, voice shaking. Please come in. I know this is a lot to take in. Sarah stepped inside, moving as if in a daze. She sank onto the couch, still staring at Rachel in disbelief. Roy, she whispered. Is that really you? Rachel nodded, perching on the edge of an armchair. It's me. I know I look different, but it's still me inside. How? Sarah breathed. This can't be real. Did you have surgery or something? Rachel shook her head. No, nothing like that. I don't understand it myself. It just happened. I was praying, asking God to help me, and then suddenly... She gestured to her transformed body. Sarah's brow furrowed. Praying? Roy, what are you talking about? Help you with what? This was it, the moment of truth. Rachel took a deep breath, steeling herself. Sarah, there's something I've never told anyone.
Something I've been struggling with my whole life. I've always felt like I was born in the wrong body, like I was meant to be a woman. Understanding dawned in Sarah's eyes. "Oh, Roy," she said softly, "why didn't you tell me?" "I was ashamed," Rachel admitted, tears pricking at her eyes. "I thought it was wrong, sinful. I've been fighting it for so long, trying to be the man everyone expected me to be, but it never went away. And then today, it's like a miracle happened. My outside finally matches how I feel inside." Sarah was quiet for a long moment, processing this revelation. Then, to Rachel's immense relief, she reached out and took her hand. "I can't pretend I understand all of this," she said slowly. "But I love you. You're my sibling, no matter what. If this is who you truly are, then I support you." Rachel burst into tears, overcome with emotion. Sarah pulled her into a tight hug, stroking her hair soothingly. "It's okay," she murmured. "We'll figure this out together." As Rachel's sobs subsided, Sarah pulled back to look at her. "So, do you still want me to call you Roy, or—" Rachel sniffled, wiping at her eyes. "Actually, I've been thinking about that. I'd like to go by Rachel now, if that's okay." Sarah nodded, a small smile tugging at her lips. "Rachel, it suits you." They spent the next few hours talking, Rachel pouring out years of pent-up feelings and fears. Sarah listened without judgment, asking questions and offering support. By the time she left, Rachel felt lighter than she had in years. "Thank you," she said as she walked Sarah to the door. "For listening, for understanding. I was so afraid." Sarah squeezed her hand. "You're my family. Nothing will ever change that. We'll get through this together, okay?" Rachel nodded, feeling a surge of hope. If Sarah could accept her, maybe others would too. It wouldn't be easy, she knew. There would be challenges and obstacles ahead. But for the first time in her life, Rachel felt like she could face them as her true self. As she closed the door behind Sarah, Rachel caught sight of her reflection in the hallway mirror. The woman looking back at her was smiling, eyes bright with unshed tears of joy. This was who she was meant to be all along. "Thank you," she whispered, eyes turned heavenward. "For seeing me, for hearing me, for making me whole." With a deep breath, Rachel squared her shoulders. Tomorrow would bring new challenges, but she was ready to face them. It was time to step into the light and embrace her true self, fully and without shame. The next morning dawned bright and clear, full of promise. Rachel woke early, feeling a sense of anticipation she hadn't experienced in years. Today was the first day of her new life, her authentic life. She took her time getting ready, savoring each moment. The feel of silk against her skin as she slipped on a blouse, the swish of a skirt around her legs, the delicate art of applying makeup, no longer a secret shame, but a joyful expression of her femininity. As she stood before the mirror, putting the finishing touches on her appearance, Rachel felt a surge of confidence. The woman looking back at her was poised, elegant, and above all, genuine. This was who she had always been inside, finally free to shine. But even as excitement coursed through her, Rachel knew the day ahead would not be easy. She had arranged to meet with her boss, determined to be upfront about her transition. The thought made her stomach churn with anxiety, but she refused to let fear hold her back any longer. "You can do this," she told her reflection firmly. "You've lived with far worse than whatever they might say or think." With a deep breath, Rachel grabbed her purse and headed out the door. The warm sunlight on her face felt like a benediction, a sign that she was on the right path at last. The drive to her office seemed both interminable and far too short. Rachel's hands shook slightly as she parked her car, but she forced herself to remain calm. Whatever happened, she knew she was being true to herself. That had to count for something. She made her way through the office, acutely aware of the stares and whispers that followed in her wake. Colleagues she had known for years did double takes, clearly struggling to reconcile the person before them with the Roy they thought they knew. Rachel kept her head high, smiling politely but not stopping to chat.
She had a meeting to get to, after all. Her boss's secretary did a visible double-take when Rachel approached the desk. "I'm sorry, can I help you?" she asked, clearly not recognizing her. "Yes, I have a 9 o'clock appointment with Mr. Johnson," Rachel replied, striving for a calm she didn't quite feel.
"He's expecting me." The secretary's brow furrowed in confusion.
"I'm sorry, I don't see any appointments scheduled for 9 o'clock. What name should I be looking for?"
Rachel took a deep breath. This was it. "It would be under Roy Thompson. But I go by Rachel now." Understanding dawned in the secretary's eyes, quickly followed by shock.
Oh my! I'll let Mr. Johnson know you're here." She picked up the phone, speaking in a low, urgent tone. Rachel tried not to fidget as she waited, all too aware of the curious glances being cast her way from around the office. After what felt like an eternity, the secretary hung up and gestured towards the office door.
"You can go in now. Rachel."
Rachel nodded her thanks and stepped into her boss's office, heart pounding.
Mr. Johnson was seated behind his desk, an unreadable expression on his face as he took in her appearance. "Roy?" he said uncertainly. Is that really you?" Rachel nodded, sinking into the chair across from him. "Yes, sir, though I go by Rachel now. I know this must come as a shock." Mr. Johnson held up a hand, cutting her off. "I think you'd better explain what's going on here. Rachel, from the beginning."
And so Rachel did. She poured out the story of her lifelong struggle, the prayers, the miraculous transformation. Mr. Johnson listened in silence, his expression growing increasingly bewildered. When she finished, he leaned back in his chair, running a hand through his thinning hair. "I have to say, this is unprecedented. I'm not even sure how to begin addressing this situation." Rachel's heart sank. Was this where she lost her job? But to her surprise, Mr. Johnson's next words were not what she expected.
"I won't pretend to understand all of this," he said slowly. "But you've been a valuable employee for years. Your work has always been exemplary. As long as that doesn't change, well, I don't see why your personal life should affect your position here." Relief washed over Rachel in a dizzying wave.
"Thank you, sir," she said softly. "I promise my commitment to this company hasn't changed. Only my outward appearance." Mr. Johnson nodded, still looking somewhat shell-shocked. "We'll need to update your personnel files, of course, and there may be some adjustment needed from your co-workers,
but we'll cross those bridges as we come to them."
As Rachel left the office, she felt as though a great weight had been lifted from her shoulders. One hurdle cleared, though she knew there would be many more to come. The rest of the day passed in a blur of explanations, shocked expressions, and tentative acceptance from her colleagues. It wasn't easy, but Rachel faced each interaction with grace and patience. By the time she left work, she felt wrung out but oddly exhilarated. As she drove home, Rachel found herself taking a detour. Before she quite realized where she was going, she found herself pulling into the parking lot of her church. For a moment, she sat in her car, staring at the familiar steeple. This place had been such a source of both comfort and conflict for her over the years. Would she still be welcome here, as her true self? Taking a deep breath, Rachel stepped out of the car and made her way inside. The sanctuary was quiet and cool, sunlight streaming through stained glass windows. Rachel slipped into a pew near the back, bowing her head in prayer. "I don't know if this is what you intended," she whispered, "but I'm grateful. For the first time in my life, I feel whole, complete. If this is a test, I pray for the strength to face whatever challenges lie ahead, and if it's a blessing, thank you. Thank you for seeing me as I truly am." As she sat there in the stillness, Rachel felt a profound sense of peace settle over her. Whatever happened next, she knew she was on the right path. The path to living authentically, openly, and without shame. When she finally left the church, the sun was setting, painting the sky in vibrant hues of pink and gold. Rachel paused for a moment, drinking in the beauty of the moment. "A new day," she murmured to herself. "A new life." Thanks for watching. Don't forget to check out my other socials if you want more wonderful content, early access, behind the scenes, and more. All links down below.